call this public caucus to order. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the status of the parking garages owned by the Scranton Parking Authority. In attendance this evening, we're very fortunate to have Mr. Michael Washo, appointed receiver, who oversees revenues, expenditures, and financial obligations related to the Scranton parking garages. I welcome Mr. Washo to these chambers and thank him for his participation in tonight's caucus. Mr. Washo will begin by providing a brief overview of his duties and responsibilities and status report on the garages. Thereafter, City Council members may pose questions or offer comments in the established order. I ask that all be mindful of the 6 o'clock starting time of the regularly scheduled meeting. And Mr. Washo, if you're ready, you may begin.
Okay, well, thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm here after your important announcement, and I'm having the opportunity to at least appear before you leave. You will find out, though, as I found out when I didn't run, that the year will go by fast.
Yes.
Yeah, it'll go by very fast. But you didn't invite me here to talk about your career. You invited me here to talk about the parking garages, the 5 city-owned parking garages. And I'd first like to say that they continue to be a very challenging proposition, and that means they're a very challenging proposition for the taxpayers. We're dealing with excess capacity, and it's not just excess capacity, but it's excess capacity that's still not paid for, with approximately $50 million worth of debt associated with it. And I came into this job as a result of Wells Fargo Bank, the trustee for the bonds, asking the Court of Common Pleas to appoint a receiver, and the Parking Authority did not object to my appointment to the receivership, and that's how I ended up here. I've been looking at where we are and where it is we might be able to go, and it's at this point it's not a very positive situation. Central Parking came in on the 11th of September, and they came as a result of interviews that I held and others held in New York, and they came in with a very strong reputation, which they still enjoy, but they too have been challenged by what they have found here. They originally projected revenue of $3.152 million. They modified that within, I think, 45 days to $2.14 million. They came in with a proposed monthly budget in terms of revenue of $178,000, and for the months of October, November, and December, they have averaged about $170,000 plus. So they've been under on the revenue, and they've been over on the expenditure side. They had originally estimated their expenditures would be $720,000 annually, and when they adjusted their expenses rather would be $720,000, and then when they adjusted the revenue, they adjusted the expenses downward, but the expenses will still, on an annualized basis, based upon October, November, and December, be up around the $720,000 mark. They are facing a lot of challenges. They're facing the challenges of people building their own parking spaces in the downtown and then renting out. I was surprised to know that the mall was selling parking, for instance. And the mall will provide you a gift certificate. If you pay, I think, $100 a month to park there, you get a $100 gift certificate. Now, for me, as someone who was a part of that project, it's disturbing. I understand it, but it's disturbing because it was governmental funds that helped to create that. And now we have governmental funds that are being used to subsidize the parking authority because we cannot drive enough business to the garages. Now, it's not unusual around the entire country for municipalities to subsidize garages. They're notorious for not being able to make their to meet their expenses, both debt service and direct expenses. But we're faced with a problem that's to a larger degree than you would find it in other places. So I was shocked, for instance, to find out also that the Lackawanna Station sells a few spaces. Now, I may find out it's only 2, but they sell some spaces because one of the managers there reluctantly verified that for me. And there's another project that had governmental assistance in 1983. And then there are private folks that have created more space for competition. And then there are also private people who've created lots in order to meet the needs for their employees. And so all this is draining revenue from the garages. All this is happening at a time when there's not a lot of new business coming into the downtown. The new business is coming from housing, from what I've been able to observe. For instance, across the street at the former Chamber of Commerce building, we've picked up business because people have moved in there.
Yeah.
But one of our other challenges, I said one challenge was just the competition from people who aren't really in the parking business being in the parking business, such as the mall and the Lackawanna Station. But another challenge that we have is rates. The fact that we're charging $112.50 a month for our spaces. And I've found when I've gone back and studied this, that when we were 100 or below, we were doing better revenue-wise in the garages than we're doing now. So I've challenged Central to accelerate their efforts at putting a marketing plan together, meeting with the merchants, following up on council's recommendation, for instance, to meet with some of the, one of the merchants that had talked about or suggested that we try to do something with the top floors. And we had Central's marketing person here for the past 2 days, and he's going to come back again to meet with any and all that have an interest in the downtown. The housing is helping to prevent further decline, really, helping greatly in that respect, because without it, we would be seeing negative numbers in the garage in terms of occupancy.
Well, thank you. And I believe you said earlier that you were selected for this position by Wells Fargo.
Yeah, well, what happened was Wells Fargo is represented by a Boston law firm, and there are 2 insurers, and one of the insurers is represented by Aaron Fox in New York. And so the interviews were in New York, and then they recommended me to the parking authority, who didn't object, and then they made the recommendation to the Common Pleas Court.
And so you were actually appointed as receiver by Common Pleas Court.
That's correct, yes, and recommended by the out-of-town folks.
And can you tell us who or what entity determined your pay rate?
The court approved a rate. I had submitted a rate to, I believe I had submitted a rate to the trustee rather than to the court, and it was the trustee that incorporated that into the language that was submitted to the court.
Thank you. And so, just to make this clear, no member of City Council selected you, appointed you, or determined your rate of pay, is that correct?
Oh, that's correct, nor did anyone else in City Hall in the administration.
Thank you.
Okay.
And once again, who selected then central parking as the management for the 5 garages?
Yeah. I selected them officially, but I also received input from the insurers that had interviewed Central and other folks, including a firm called AMPCO, which is a large firm. I don't recall where their office is, but they were, in both cases, both firms were interviewed here in Scranton.
I see. And Councilman Rogan, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, just a few brief questions, and I apologize for being a little late. I was stuck on 81. The first question, and it doesn't come from me, it comes from the residents of the city. One of the gripes that people have with the current situation at the parking authority is the $100 an hour rate of pay. And I would like to ask you if you would consider working for a lower rate.
No, I wouldn't, any more than the folks that you have in professional capacities throughout all of city government or anywhere else. You know, that is my rate, and the answer is I would not.
It's frustrating when, a lot of people are coming to us and saying, I don't even make $100 in a day, and we're paying, $100 an hour with all the debt and all the problems that you outlined. But you believe that rate is justified for the duties?
Yeah, I do. I said that's what my rate is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is all I had. I appreciate you coming in and taking the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very
and
much.
If I may, though, typically, Mr. Washo, would you say that you work a 40-hour week, or does it vary for
I
you?
appreciate that question, Madam Chairperson. I started, and I appreciate your question, giving me the opportunity to answer it. I am now working 47% of what I worked in my first full month. I work alone. I report to the trustee and I report to the insurers. I have great respect for Solicitor Hughes, and I oftentimes seek his advice, but I work alone. I don't work with Central Parking. I don't work with anyone else. And so I have control of my hours. But I'm conscious of just what both of you are asking, and both of you have said. This is a going rate. It's not an extraordinary rate at all. There's a famous quote by James Abbott McNeill Whistler, the painter. Someone said to him once, $100 for that painting? He said, no, for the knowledge of a lifetime. And so I really love that particular quote. But I have been very sensitive to hours, and I'm now working at about 47% of what it was that I was working when I came here in the number of hours. And I think that's satisfactory. I don't think that I deserve a star for that. I just think that I'm very conscious of all that, too.
I just have one more question, and then I'm going to defer to Councilman Joyce. If customers of the garages should have complaints, should those complaints be forwarded to Central Parking or to you?
I'd like to get them, and then I'd like to be able to forward them to Central Parking so that I know about them.
Okay.
And my email, mjwasho@gmail.com. Now, I sent that to every parker.
Was that MJ Washo?
mjwasho@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Councilman Joyce?
Yes. What is the current occupancy rate of the garages?
I'll give you the occupancy for February.
Okay.
Okay? And I'm going to take weekends out because weekends are abysmal. The Casey Garage is operated at 27% in February. The Medallion Garage operated at 37%. The Connell garage operated at 56%. The Linden Street garage operated at 24%. And the Electric City garage operated at 27%.
So it looks like most of the garages are around 30% capacity, except for the Connell garage.
Yeah, and the Connell, I think, will continue to increase. I think there's great promise there because there's more office space to be rented in that garage.
Right. Now, what is the plan to try to increase occupancy rates?
Well, I just alluded to the fact that Central is making a proposal to us very shortly on how they think occupancy can be increased and how they think just overall revenue can be increased. We're looking to do much more promotion, say, for the large festivals such as the Italian Festival. Mm-hmm. So on that level, they are looking to expanding their validation program to make it more affordable so that restaurants and merchants can offer validation to their customers, mm-hmm. and thereby make it more convenient for their customers, and also to increase revenues in the garages. And all of the rates are being studied.
Yes.
The hourly rate, we have a $3.70 hourly rate for the first hour. That just, going back to your concerns about people's wages in our community, this is something that's very difficult for me to swallow. Mm-hmm. It's we're in somewhat of a catch-22. Let me just finish the marketing. So we're going to continue to meet with people, but this is not over a 3-month period or anything else. This is over the next couple of weeks, and put together a marketing plan which we expect will increase revenue, which we hope will increase occupancy. When I say revenue, it'll increase it because I think trying to do more, like, say, we may develop a weekend rate. We have virtually no weekend business. So I don't want to throw a rate out there because we're not quite there, but it'll be very, very favorable. It won't be the kind of thing that people will choke on, like, such as if someone goes out to dinner now and they're at dinner for 2 hours, it's $5.10. That's just a lot of money in our community.
I know that, I'm sorry, each of us on council received the Scranton Garage Revenue Improvement Initiatives that was drafted by Central Parking. And it validates all of what you are saying, and that they are, for example, reviewing the rates. They are focusing on good marketing strategies in order to increase revenue and occupancy. And if you could perhaps let us know what the findings of their study will be, and if indeed there will be rate changes or any other types of changes that we could make public for you.
Yeah, that's going to be very important. And that's another issue that some of the merchants have talked to us about. Everything has turned so negative regarding parking, that some of the merchants have said they think it's affected their businesses. And I think it's important to get the whole story out as quickly as possible. What's going to happen on street? Whatever it is, certainty is better than uncertainty, even if you don't like the certainty. And we owe that to the people. I mean, all of us owe that to the people that depend upon people coming downtown for their livelihood. It's really important, and I appreciate that offer, and we want to be. We're going to take you up on that.
Thank you.
It may be a situation where they may make an announcement and several members of council could join us for it, or something like that. This is none of my business, but I have to say it. I hope you can get the operator situation settled quickly. I'm not trying to jump into or make a judgment about what happened or whatever, because I held a position similar to all of yours at one time. but it's in the best interest of everybody, the collection rate and everything else, all things that you know, to get this settled.
Yes.
And it's too bad you can't even do it in a negotiated way, because rather than a bid, because it's going to take so long. Now I'm telling you stuff that I have no business telling you. But it affects our rates, and it affects our ability to make change. If I don't know what's going to happen on the street, then it's hard for me to know and do any kind of long-term planning for the garages.
I absolutely agree with you. And I have one question, though. In your opinion, as the receiver, and based on the knowledge of the situation that you have amassed, would you say it is beneficial, perhaps more beneficial or less beneficial, to have the same management firm operating both the garages and the on-street parking program?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you seeking my opinion on that. And secondly, I'm not happy that Central had to downgrade their revenue projections. I'm not happy with a lot of things, but I'm a realist here. And they know more about our parking now than we ever knew here locally. And we've got to make this work. We, the collective we, and a lot of the burden on me and on Central. And it's more likely that we can make it work if it's the same operator. It's more likely we can make it work if the rates are higher on the street. I think that's certainty. If that doesn't happen, you're going to be called on to come up with more money to reach any shortfall. You've appropriated $1.9 million for these garages, and that's an extraordinary amount of money. But in other communities, the garages support their debt through the on-street parking. So it's not as if somebody did something wrong, or some great mistake was made here. There just isn't enough revenue, is what the problem is.
Yes.
And so I think it's really important to get this behind you and get an operator and get someone to share the philosophy that there's going to have to be an increase on the on-street. You pay one way or another. Property taxes get increased or whatever. If this is an obligation. That's good. So no one out there knows. If they're recording, they don't know what I said. But we're going to pay no matter what. And it seems as if the users should pay, the people who use, and an increase will drive some people to the garages. Now that's anathema to a lot of people. That's terrible. That's what's going to happen. Look, there's $3.5 million worth of debt. It's going to have to be met. There were people writing in 2003, consultants for this community saying it's growing. You know, there's a report from Rich and Associates about the time of the study for the Casey garage. You need more parking. This is pretty extraordinary. You know, I've got the document here. So things happened, and I think we've got to look at ways to address it. And one would be to get an operator as quickly as possible. I think it makes more sense to have the same operator at this point in time. And I think it makes sense to raise the rates modestly. I think that the concerns people expressed about late night enforcement are concerns that are legitimate. That's just a personal observation. I think the concerns that people expressed about Saturday are legitimate, but it all tempers what the revenue is going to be at the end of the day, and somebody has to come up with that revenue.
Yes. And
Did
that
I
would be the taxpayers of Scranton.
Yeah. Did I answer it? I mean, that's...
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's what I think.
And actually, just as an aside, I could say that I share your beliefs in terms of having the same operator overseeing both the on-street parking and the garages, because I don't believe that a competition between the two is going to create success for either. I think it's going to create a greater financial burden for the taxpayers of the city.
I do too, and now I don't have any right to offer this, but I will before you cut me off. Okay, and that's simply this. I would consider, if I were sitting where you're sitting and where the mayor sits, to look at the legislation, just amend the legislation. It's a professional service that these people are going to provide.
Well, Mr. Washo, I know what you're saying, but the issue arose because in the contract itself,
I know.
it stated that it had been bid, and that was not so.
That would have to come out, obviously.
And so I consulted with Solicitor Hughes. I asked the mayor, had indeed the management been put out to bid, and he said no. And according to the advice of our solicitor, it needed to be put out to bid. And so
I agree with that.
But the problem has been that we've been long awaiting the advertisement. This has been known now for at least a month, if not more, and we're awaiting, the development of the specs for the advertisement from the business administrator's office. So, though, the mayor and I speak about it frequently, and I'm frequently reminding him that the clock is ticking and the revenue is decreasing. As recently as yesterday, he told me that they are in process of creating that proposal. They will submit it to Solicitor Hughes for his review before it's placed in the newspaper.
Okay, and I don't mean to be presumptuous. I'm just eager to get it resolved.
As am
because
I.
it'll have an impact upon the garages.
Absolutely.
And that's the reason.
Thank you. And Councilman Joyce, did you have any other questions?
Just very briefly, as far as in your research, what have you noticed as far as occupancy rates in other cities similar to Scranton size?
Yeah, our rates are high, higher. A common rate 6 months ago would have been about $80 for a monthly parking.
$80 for monthly parking?
Right.
Now, you said that when
But
rates...
again, but I don't know in those communities the number of new garages. Binghamton would be about 80, Allentown would be about 80, Wilkes-Barre would be in that 80 ballpark. Some would be 75, 85, but about an average of 80. But to just isolate that number is not fair either, because they may be using the on-street to subsidize, and
Yes.
and we don't know what the on-street represents, how much.
Okay. I know that you said that when the rates were around $100 a month or lower, we were doing better revenue-wise.
Yeah.
How much better were we doing?
Well, when the rate went to $112.50, I think we lost about $120,000 worth of monthly parkers.
Is that it?
We're competing locally with rates that are $80 on
Right.
surface lots and on garages.
So is it possible that one of the suggestions might be to lower the rates of the garages as far as the monthly fee is concerned to generate more revenue and get more parkers into the garages?
Yeah. Here's one difficulty you have. We have approximately 1,100 monthly parkers, and if we're collecting on average $110 a month, let's say, if you lowered that rate to 90, I think you'd need to come up with something like 380, it's between 300 and 400, I don't remember the number, new parkers. And I'm not convinced that there are that many new parkers out in the market. I mentioned a catch-22 before. We're just sort of stable at 1105 or 1110, but not too stable at that level. So on the one hand, you could keep going down with the $112.50 charge. But on the other hand, if you don't have that charge and you don't get those 400 new customers, that's that much more that the taxpayer has to come up with. So that's why this review that Central is doing is really important, and their recommendations are going to be important to us.
Yes.
They won't decide the rates, they'll recommend the rates.
Okay. And once Central has a marketing plan in place, would you be able to provide that to City Council?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Okay. That's it.
You said just very quickly that Central Parking will provide the recommendation. And who will make the final decision?
Well, the consent order from the court says that I would make that decision in consultation with the trustee.
Okay.
But I'm not sufficiently egotistical to say that I welcome the opinions of all that have an interest in this.
Thank you.
But at some point, somebody has to say this is what the rate's going to be.
Right. Keeping in mind that we've already passed the starting time of our regularly scheduled meeting, Councilman McGough, do you have any comments or questions? Councilman Loscom?
No, first I want to apologize, Mr. Washo, for getting here late. I was unable to get here prior to this time.
Yeah.
I don't know what was discussed, but as Mrs. Evans stated about waiting for bids to be published or whatever, I think I've stated, and I believe Mrs. Evans has stated, that part of the bid package, I think, should be the technology rebid also. When this company was awarded the bid for the technology, we were still under the auspices of the Parking Authority. And it was about the third time that the city had bid that stuff out, and several companies had given up at that point, stating, you know, we're just getting the runaround. So I think there's better, or possibly better opportunities if we bid that again as part of the package and see what options there are out there.
Good.
But I think that would be probably a main part of the management bid also, because, you know, they would rely, the management company would rely on figures and technology that are being provided by, you know, the successful company that would bid that. I just think we're locking ourselves right now into one situation based on, again, knowing the history of how this was bid out and where it went, and I still don't think, you know, this, and again, I don't know the people, I don't know the company. I'm just looking for the best bang for the buck, as we all are, for everybody to benefit us. But I think there are options out there right now that may benefit us financially, cost-wise, technology-wise, and, you know, as part of this whole package. That, you know, that's all I have to say. But I apologize, that may have been discussed, but
No.
I don't know.
No, thank you.
Well, thank you. And finally, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Washo, for your participation in tonight's meeting. And
Mrs. Evans, if I could just ask Mr.
Certainly.
Washo three quick questions.
Be my guest.
I'll try to make them fast. Mike, you said that from the average of the parking garages, there's only 30% occupancy. Is there any plan right now to close any of the garages in order to boost the revenue with the other one and save some expenses?
Right. I wouldn't call it a plan, I'd call it a consideration.
Okay.
Yes. That'll be a part of it. We've got to get rid of the confusion. The rates on the street are going to be, the rates in the garages are going to be, the garages that are open are going to be. That's what.
It just seems to me that with the Medallion garage and the Casey garage being right next to each other, that if one of those were closed, it'd put, you know, the expenses that could be saved there.
Yes.
That's just.
No,
Secondly, is there have you given any thought with the overcapacity of the garages to maybe sell a garage, but that might be a catch-22 situation. You sell it to a private enterprise, and then they'd have less rates than maybe, you and they'd take parking from other garages.
Yeah. That would be something that the insurers would be pretty big on participating in, too, the insurers and the trustee. And that hasn't been something that we've had any in-depth discussion on up until now.
Tomorrow, the bond payment is due of $424,000. How much did you contribute to that? I say
Yeah.
you, I mean, as the trustee.
Yeah, I do have I can report on that exactly if I look at one of my files. But the good thing is that no one was running around looking for the money, wondering if it was going to arrive. The city did its part. The money arrived in Minneapolis from the city and from me well in advance of that payment. I'm glad you brought it up. I sent $307,310.71, and the city sent $117,001.79. So we're okay for March, and every bond payment has been made for September. We made it together, the city and the receivership. We made it in December, and now we made it in March.
Now the problem comes with the June 1st payment, that's $1.2 million. The September 15th payment is $964,000, and the December payment is $805,000. Any ideas based on the revenue as to, just, I hate to say a rough estimate as to what you would be able to contribute for the June payment of $1.2 million?
I didn't see the March report yet, or the February report, which I should have in the next day or whatever. So I'm a little hesitant to say, but I'll just say $300,000 to be safe. And so then I would need $903,000. And now we're really, at that point, we're really eating into the $1.9 million that you folks had in the budget, and whomever had was in the city budget that you adopted. Right now there's $1.78 million in there, but that will be reduced considerably by the June payment.
And then September and December payments, that comes to about a $1.77 million.
You're looking at September and December, is that what you
Yes.
said? Yeah, that's what it comes to, yeah. September is like $959,000, is that what you showed?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. So I would then...
964 and 805 in December. I'm just trying to figure out if there's going to be enough of money in the budget,
Right.
to pay that, or if we're going to have a shortfall there.
Well, okay, then I can, what I've projected that the budget, I think we're about 3.4 or 3.5 million was due for the entire year. The budget appropriated 1.9 million. And so then we would need 1.5 million from Central. And presently, I think we're going at the rate of 1.2 million. So I would say that the potential shortfall is a minimum of $300,000.
Hopefully you can get that 300,000 up in
Yeah.
some of the programs or policies that you would enact.
Right.
Okay, I just want to get that out so council has some ideas that what the projection from what's in the budget and what a potential shortfall could be.
Yeah.
And I think, so we can communicate that also with Ryan McGowan, that 1.9 million might be short.
Yeah. Based upon the trending for October, November, December, and January. If that is as important a reason as any for me to be here tonight. And
Yes, yes,
pleased
that's,
that you
I wanted to say that,
asked that
these
question.
figures that you just announced regarding the financial obligations attest to the urgency of settling the management of the on-street parking program.
Yes.
And again, I thank you so much for your participation this evening, Mr. Washo, and if you would please keep us informed
Yeah.
of any of the changes that may be made by Central Parking and yourself, and will certainly inform you when the selection has been made of the on-street parking management and the parking enhancement program as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be happy to meet with you anytime going forward, because it is so terribly important to all of us.
Yes.
If I may
Thank you,
just-
Mr. Washo.
If I may just ask one final question before Mr. Washo leaves. I know that you stated that Central Parking modified their projections to $2.14 million in revenue after 45 days of being on the job. Do you see us as being able to hit that?
That, I believe that that's part of the shortfall still, not on the revenue side, but the expense side's going to be higher.
Okay.
But I think they're going to, I think if they're doing, I said they're doing about 170,000 a month on the revenue side. So 170, Boyd, 170, 12 months, 1.2, that's, and 740? Yeah, but, yeah, so,
Yeah.
840, yeah, that's right, so they're in the ballpark, but 2,040,000, that'd be 60,000 less than their projection. So the revenue is less the issue than the expense side. It's more expensive to operate than they realized, and their expenses are really cut to the bone. I'm there, I'm watching.
Well, thank you again very much, and if
Thank
there
you.
are no further comments, this public caucus is adjourned.